Hey, welcome back. April 1st, 2026. And no, this is not an April Fool's joke. What is happening with your Chicago Bears right now is 100% real. And I am sitting here with 3 stories that have been living rent-free in my head all day long. We are talking generational money, a pass rusher the Bears almost stole off the market, and a fan-favorite veteran whose time on the north side might be running out. All of that right now. Let's get into it. All right, everybody in Bear Nation knew this moment was coming. It was inevitable when your franchise has the most talented quarterback to ever put on the navy and orange since. Man, that is honestly a conversation for another day. The point is this: Ryan Poles just publicly confirmed that Halas Hall is already working on a contract extension for Caleb Williams, and the numbers being floated are from a completely different stratosphere. Poles said it straight up. Matt Feinstein, the Bears' salary cap guru and VP of Football Administration, is already deep in the numbers, and we are talking months before the Bears are even legally allowed to sit down and negotiate with Williams. That is not an accident. That is an organization that knows exactly what it has and is not about to fall asleep on the most important asset in franchise history. And Poles' actual words tell you everything. He said, and I quote, "If all that falls into place, we have to understand how that changes our formula as we move forward." That's a great thing to be on that path. I feel like we have a long-term quarterback solution. It makes me excited. Fam, when your GM is talking about your 24-year-old quarterback like that, it means he is seeing something that makes all of us who bleed navy and orange feel genuinely hopeful about the next decade. But here's where it gets interesting and honestly a little bit scary. Look at the real numbers on the market right now. Dak Prescott is pulling $60 million per year. Josh Allen, $55 million. Joe Burrow, $55 million. Now Caleb Williams has the profile of a quarterback who's going to blow past every single one of those benchmarks. We are talking potentially 5 years, $325 million with roughly $300 million in guaranteed money. That works out to $65 million per year, which would make him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Let me just take a breath here for a second. That number, $65 million per year, would represent roughly 25% of the Bears' total salary cap, a full quarter of every dollar available to build a roster locked into one player. And you know what? It is worth every single penny. But with context, look at what happened with Burrow and Lawrence as the blueprint. Burrow signed after his third year, $275 million, $219 million fully guaranteed. Today, he accounts for 15.14% of Cincinnati's cap. Lawrence signed the exact same structure, $275 million after his third year, and still represents 7.75% of Jacksonville's cap years later. Those contracts are exactly the precedent Matt Feinstein is using to map out Williams' deal, and the message is crystal clear. The longer the Bears wait, the more expensive this gets because, bro, Drake May is having a sensational year in New England. Jaden Daniels took Washington to the Super Bowl. Bo Nix is emerging in Denver. Every single one of those quarterbacks is going to be signing extensions next offseason too, and every deal is going to push the market higher and higher. Look, I could be wrong, but my gut tells me Poles makes his move before the 2027 season kicks off. Probably during the summer of 2027, before the price tag goes completely off the charts. And you know what gets me the most fired up about all of this? It is not even the contract itself. It is the fact that for the first time in what feels like forever, the Chicago Bears are planning the future of this franchise around a real, legitimate generational quarterback, not an emergency backup, not a bridge veteran, a franchise cornerstone you build a championship roster around for the next 10 years. The Windy City deserves this, and Caleb Williams is just getting started. Okay, fam, I am going to be honest with you. This one stings a little bit. All offseason long, the Bears were being linked to Max Crosby in blockbuster trade pitches that had every Bears fan absolutely salivating. Just imagine it for a second. Montez Sweat on one side, Max Crosby on the other. 2 elite edge rushers flanking opposing offensive lines like pure predators. The Raiders eventually dealt Crosby up. The Ravens almost grabbed him. And there was this one beautiful moment where every single person in Bear Nation thought, this is ours. The Bears are about to steal this. And then nothing. Crosby stays in Las Vegas. The Bears don't pull the trigger. And now the million-dollar question hanging over Halas Hall is this. How do you upgrade a pass rush that was flat out not good enough last year when you were picking 25th in the draft and you are already up against the salary cap? The answer that keeps coming up, and honestly, the one that makes the most sense, is Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, the former number 1 overall pick from 2014. The same guy who arrived with the kind of hype you only see once a generation and whose career never quite hit those all-world expectations. But here's the thing everybody needs to understand. Over the last 3 seasons, Clowney has racked up 23.5 sacks. That is not a player who is done. That is a reliable veteran who still has real gas left in the tank, and the financial piece is what makes this genuinely attractive for a Bears team that is tight against the cap. Spot Rack projects his market value at just $5.7 million. For Chicago, that is practically bargain bin pricing for the kind of experienced pass rushing presence he would bring to this defense. Tactically, it makes sense, too. Defensive coordinator Dennis Allen wants a specific physical profile from his edge players, and Clowney, at 6'5", 270 pounds, with 34.5-inch arms, fits that description exactly. He is not going to be Max Crosby. He is not going to make 5 Pro Bowls. But he can absolutely be the complement that frees Montez Sweat to do the destruction we all know he is capable of. There are other names on the table. Joey Bosa sounds exciting, but his price point is probably beyond what Poles is willing to pay this offseason. A.J. Epinesa is cheaper, but the Browns just backed out of a free agency deal with him over physical concerns. And that is a red flag you cannot ignore. And yes, there is Austin Booker internally, a third-year player the Bears clearly believe in, but the sample size is just too small to bet the present of this team on what Booker might eventually become. Clowney is the pragmatic move. It is not the flashy move. But in the context of this roster, this cap situation, and this draft position at number 25, it is the smart move. And right now, smart is exactly what the Bears need. This is the kind of story that breaks your heart a little as a Bears fan, but has an ice-cold business logic running straight through it. TJ Edwards, fan favorite, a guy who came in, brought real order to the linebacker room, and earned the respect of everyone in that locker room from day one. And now his future in Chicago is genuinely in question. Here's the situation on the ground. The Bears signed Devin Bush to 3 years, $30 million. That is locked-in starter money, full stop. They also retained DeMarco Jackson on a 2-year, $7.5 million deal after the waiver wire pickup turned into one of their most impactful defenders down the stretch last season. With those 2 additions, the linebacker room is full, and Edwards, sitting on a 2-year, $10 million contract that is already looking expensive relative to his current production, suddenly becomes the most vulnerable piece on the board. The financial math here is genuinely tricky. If the Bears straight up release Edwards, they take a $12 million dead cap hit, meaning they would essentially pay him more to play somewhere else than to stay on the roster. That option is completely off the table. But if they trade him, they save $6.2 million against the cap. And if they structure the trade with a post-June 1st designation, that jumps to nearly $8 million in savings. What are they going to get back in return? Honestly, probably a late-round pick at best. This is not a glamorous trade, but in an offseason where every dollar against the cap matters, especially with an entire rookie class to sign after the draft, $6 to $8 million in savings could be the difference between making one more move or being completely stuck. And the tactical argument is just as clear. Poles and Ben Johnson have both used the word speed over and over again this offseason when talking about what they want their defense to look like. Edwards has never been a speed player, and now he is coming into his age 30 season after fracturing his fibula in the wild card game against Green Bay. The good news, this year's draft class has ridiculous depth at linebacker. Jacob Rodriguez, Anthony Hill Jr., Jake Golday, C.J. Allen could all be there in the second round. Josiah Trotter, Harold Perkins Jr., Deontay Lawson provide legitimate starting value by day 3. If the Bears can draft one of those guys and simultaneously get Edwards' contract off the books through a trade, that is the Poles philosophy working exactly the way it was drawn up. It is not an easy goodbye. Edwards gave everything he had in that Bears jersey, and he deserves respect for it. But this team is building to win, and winning means making the cold, uncomfortable call sometimes. Fam, what we're living through right now as Bears fans is something most of us never actually believed we would get to see. A quarterback you're designing a $325 million contract for, a front office already planning the salary cap 5 years out, a draft class that could bring the linebacker of the future, and a real urgent search for the edge rusher that turns this defense into something genuinely dangerous. This is not the same Bears team you suffered through for decades. This is something different. This feels different. And I want to know exactly what you think. How much should Caleb Williams get? Do you sign Clowney tomorrow morning? Does it hurt to see TJ Edwards potentially leaving? Drop everything in the comments. I read every single one. And if this breakdown hit for you, you already know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next one. Bear down, Chicago.